Hello, I'm Milton with Skyport Systems, and today I want to show you how simple it is to perform microsegmentation of an Active Directory domain controller running on Skyport Systems' secure hyperconverged infrastructure platform. Before I do the actual demonstration, I'd like to go over the architecture of Skyport Systems. Skyport Systems delivers an on-premise 2U appliance that's in a hardened chassis that is managed by our cloud system, Skysecure Center. Now, what's important to note is that your data stays on your network. In this chassis, you'll notice there's the x86 side, and what we've created is a security I/O controller with a 40 gigabit flow processor. Think of this flow processor as firewall, router, switch. Now, on this appliance, there's only 2 power ports and 2 10 gigabit SFP ports. There's no keyboard, video, mouse. There's no IPMI ILO ports, no USB ports. So we removed a lot of the physical attack surface. Now, what you've noticed is these 2 TPM chips, Trusted Platform Module. These are basically just hardware key encryption chips that store what's known as a PCR value. Think of those as digital fingerprints about everything that goes on the motherboard, on this card, on the security I/O controller card, and on the board. We even have the registration of the solid stop 1, 2, 3, 4. What you'll notice is we have 2 TPM, Trusted Platform Module chips. These are hardware key encryption that store what's known as PCR values. They store the value about everything on this motherboard, both on the x86 side and on the security I/O controller, including the BIOS of the solid-state drives. So the first thing that's going to happen is these 2 chips are going to attest against the cloud service to make sure nothing's been tampered with on this hardware. In fact, if you were to remove that hard drive, the solid-state drive, it would be a worthless brick as it's encrypted with AES 256. The security I/O controller, you cannot remove it from one appliance and put it in another one of our appliances, because it's married together at manufacturing, both the x86 side and the security I/O controller. Skyport's based off a zero trust architecture. So once we have tested this hardware, we're then going to do the dual attestation against our OS and hypervisor engine. And then finally, we're going to bring up your virtual machines, what we refer to as secure enclaves or compartments. Now, what you'll notice is Skyport's wrapped around the outside of the OS. So for your application administrator, they think this is just another Wintel platform they're running on. Now, you might say, but no, we can do this with GPO with Windows firewalls, or I can run Endpoint Agent X, or I can do segmentation with a network firewall. Okay, let's talk about some of the challenges you'll face. With an endpoint, you have to worry about the performance impact to that application, in this case, Active Directory. The other thing that challenges with endpoints is, what about older? As your OS becomes older, endpoint agents are quick to end-of-life support for the older versions of Windows. Now, at the same time, when Microsoft releases the newest version of their OS and you want to upgrade to it, the endpoints aren't always ready to support that. You have to manage both the GPO, the Windows firewalls through GPO, and those endpoint agents manually, each individual server. If you have a privileged credential, like the domain administrator, you can disable any local security agent running on that server and just change the local GPO. Now, with a network firewall, traditional network-based firewall, they traditionally do segmentation at layer 2 VLANs or layer 3 subnets. What they're not going to do is stop those east-west or lateral movement attacks, nor are they going to give you visibility between various workloads. The other challenge is, yes, they can block the various Active Directory ports, and if you've ever tried to firewall Active Directory, you know it takes about 35 to 45 firewall objects. Skyport takes it a step further, and I'll show that later in the GUI how we actually look at the domain name. Not just that is the client talking to the domain controller over such as NetBIOS, but is it communicating over the appropriate Active Directory domain? Now, each of these workloads have a dedicated virtual CPU. Stop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, each of these workloads have dedicated virtual CPUs. There is no shared resources. So we're going to stop the traditional hypervisor attacks. You don't have to worry about resource contention. Because we're wrapped around the OS, even an attacker is not going to know that we're there. But what a thing an attacker cannot hide is their network packets. So Skyport sees every packet coming in and out of each individual workload. One workload cannot communicate to another one without going back down through the flow processor. Now, one of the advantages it gives you is Skyport's going to have you audit all communications to and from of each workload. Now, we're not going to store your data packets. What we're going to store is the metadata, the source IP, destination IP, port, protocol, and the policy or entitlement that either allows it or blocks that traffic. So I like to use the example, you were hacked 9 months ago. You retired a server 6 months ago, and today you discover you were hacked. Well, there's not much you can do from a forensic standpoint. With Skyport, you can go back from day one that a workload was implemented into us and show all packets, all communication to and from that workload. So with that being said, we're going to go into the actual Skysecure Center GUI. Now this is the Skysecure Center system. Right here is your various compartments, and this is the actual server. I'm going to click on the server just to show you right quick. But you'll notice those PCR values that I mentioned earlier, you don't have to know what each value means. What's important to note is that, yes, it passed, it's green, the last time it attested, and then you'll see the next time it's going to attest. So Skyport doesn't just attest once on boot up, we're constantly reattesting the hardware and our OS and hypervisor. So what I want to do is I want to go here to the Libraries menu, and I want to click Deploy a Compartment. For those that already have a hypervisor engine, all you have to do is export that Active Directory domain controller as an OVA file or VMDK or various different hypervisor formats, and you can simply import it into Skyport without having to change any settings, without having to install any special hypervisor tools onto that image. So the first thing you're going to do is give it a compartment name, and then you're going to choose your security policy. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what you'll notice is Firewall mode blocks all traffic inbound but allows all traffic outbound. Observation mode allows all traffic in and out. Whitelist mode, which is what we recommend for domain controllers, is going to block all traffic unless explicitly allowed. The next is you're going to choose the source type. You can either copy an existing image or you can build a new from ISO. You're going to choose your guest OS and then the version of the OS that you're running, and then choose the amount of resources such as CPUs that you want to allocate and RAM. If you're going to copy from an existing image, you're going to choose that data store that you're going to get that image from. So the very first time you're going to choose Create New. You're going to specify the display name, the permanent name, and you're going to choose what protocol you're going to communicate to that data store, such as SCP, Windows SMB file share, NFS, Secure FTP, HTTP, HTTPS, or Amazon S3. You're going to specify the destination to that data store, choose the data store root path, give the SHA-256 value of that image. Now this is important because this helps with making sure this goes with known good source. One of the things that Microsoft talks about in their ESAE, Enhanced Security Administrative Environment Guidelines, is that you're building from known good trusted source. And finally, you specify the individual file path of the image. You specify the amount of hard drive space and whether you want to run this locally on Skyport or over an NFS share. Now again, with Skyport, we have data at rest encryption as part of the solution. Those solid-state drives are encrypted with AES-256 encryption. The last part to deploy a compartment is choose which Skysecure server you want to deploy this to. For Active Directory, you're going to choose transparent mode, stop, 1, 2, 3, 4. For Active Directory, you're going to choose transparent mode, IPv4. And finally, if you have various VLAN tags or a trunk, this is where you would specify what network this workload runs on. The last step is to click Save and Deploy. Now that we have the OS imported in, the workload imported in, we're going to finalize the security entitlements or the policy. What you're going to first notice is that this was specified as a whitelist entry, so everything was denied, both inbound and outbound, TCP, UDP, ICMP, HTTP, HTTPS. Stop. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What you're going to notice is this was selected as a whitelist entry, so everything's denied both inbound and outbound. Now, if you've ever worked with Firewall, you know it takes about 35 to 45 firewall objects to firewall off Active Directory and all the communication ports required. With Skyport, it's simply adding a server role. So you would choose Active Directory and then next Windows Update. Now they're grayed out here because we've already done it on this image, but I'll show you what the interface looks like. When you add the Active Directory role, all you have to do is define the Active Directory domain name, choose domain controller, and then you have the option if you want to whitelist specific IP addresses it can communicate with. And what you'll notice under advanced settings is we automatically map the RPC mapper ports. On the next screen, what you're going to see is the various individual entitlements, all those ports and protocols that's required for Active Directory communication. Now you might say, we only support LDAP over SSL, so on this screen this is where you can disable port 389, the standard LDAP ports. And then the final part is you click Save. Now, making those changes to that standard LDAP is audited. Everything that happens inside the Skysecure Center UI is audited, and you cannot delete those logs. The next step is you might need to support Windows Update. Now, traditional firewalls usually do whitelisting based off of IP address, how they do their access control list. Well, unfortunately, Windows Update's behind a content delivery network, and your traditional perimeter firewalls can't handle that. Some will say they support DNS entries, but what they do is they do a reverse lookup, and then they cache that IP address. But then the next time when you make a request out to Windows Update, you get a different IP address. What Skyport does is a DNS forward lookup at line speed to make sure, is this IP address part of Windows Update service? And then we can authorize it. Then you want to specify NTP to keep your server's time in sync. So you would give that entitlement name, choose the protocol, the port in this case, but you also have a choice of port ranges, and then the DNS name, which is what we recommend. You could choose IP address, but Skyport highly recommends using DNS. Another one you might want to add is RDP inbound. So you would just choose inbound from the entitlement, choose RDP, and then specify the individual IP addresses or subnet that you want to allow RDP access. We have another video that talks about our VSOL, Virtual Secure Administrative Workstation, which I highly recommend that you watch in order to see how to appropriately lock down your Active Directory environment from an administrative standpoint. At this point in time, you have a lockdown Active Directory domain controller. If you need more information, you can come up here to the Help and Skysecure Center Help. We have a great documentation team that does an awesome job at documenting our product. So if you have any questions, you come in here, like example, an Active Directory deployment, or you can do a search up here if you do not see it under a quick link. Do a search and then you'll see an example. You'll see various articles that we have about that. Another video I recommend that you watch is one regarding our traffic intelligence to show you how you get the information once you've added a workload into Skyport. Thank you and have a nice day.